Hello, welcome to the Bradley Show. Bradley J. Show. Let me tell you a story, and I'll introduce our guest, Dan McCarthy. This is going to be great. The story goes like this. I was at City Winery working, emceeing a gig for Chachi. Scott Feldman from City Winery, I asked him, hey, do you guys do any karaoke? He said, no. And then 5 minutes later, he says, you want to do a night? I said, yes. And 2 months later, boom, they had an opening. They say, you want to do karaoke next week? And I said, yes. And so, boom, I had 1 week to get it all together. My friend John Graham said, dude, you're doing karaoke at City Winery? I said, yep. He said, you got to talk to my friend Dan McCarthy. He's the king. He's the king of karaoke in Boston. He started it out. He was the first. He's the king. And so I did. And it's true. He is the king, and he's got a super interesting story. Before we get going, the karaoke you might want to go to, for me, help out, Saturday night, City Winery. I can give you the link here, but you'll never remember it. You'll never remember that. Just go to City Winery and buy the tickets in advance, okay? It's only $5 in advance. $5. It's almost free. Now we get to Dan. Dan, of course, gave me all kinds of super information on how it works because I had no clue, very little clue. And our conversation was very interesting. And I said, he told me some other stuff he was into, like this cool podcast called Between the Beats. I said, dude, we have to do a broadcast. So that is what we're doing. Dan McCarthy, thank you very much.
Well, thanks for having me, Bradley. Glad to be on board.
You look like your office there looks like you're the general manager of the Bruins or something like that. It looks like one of those sports.
Yeah, I was their
offices.
DJ for the Bruins for 12 years, the Celtics for 13 years. I was the arena DJ. So I've got a little memorabilia saved up over the years. Yeah.
So, you got to first tell us how. At some point, we're going to get to your podcast and why it's so cool and so interesting. But we're going to get there naturally. You were the Bruins DJ, guy like me, or a guy like anybody, or anybody like anybody says, how do you get that gig? How does a person get that gig? I'm guessing you knew somebody.
Well, no, actually, we just covered this in an episode too. When the Fleet Center opened, this was brand new building, and they really didn't do music too much in Boston Garden. But when the new building opened, I thought I was born for that job. So I sent my resume in, and it was crickets. It wasn't until I did a party for the Celtics in 1999. There was a lockout, and I did a corporate party for them. The vice president of marketing at the time liked what he heard, and he said, would you like a shot at playing at the Fleet Center and doing our games? And wow, when you're a DJ for a living and somebody asks you a question like that, it's just beyond your dreams being fulfilled. And there was somebody in the radio business I have to applaud. He was from Worcester. I don't remember the name, but he didn't want to come in and train on the equipment. So they passed on him and gave me the nod. I started in 99. They picked up mid-season. And a year or two later, I picked up the Bruins, and I did that till 2012. And I have a championship ring with the Bruins and a championship watch with the Celtics for my trouble.
Man, that's key. Also, as a DJ, I've been in various venues. Ooh, tell me about the ins and outs of, say, the Bruins. We will just deal with the Bruins, I guess, because we choose one. What was it like? Where were you situated? When did you play music? What did you play? What was the equipment like? The setup. Was there some director saying, "All right, play the music, play that, do this," or did you already know? How did it work out?
Well, it's funny you say that. The audio room is located on the 9th level, and I share the room with the organist, Ron Poster, who you may know. And I played hockey my whole life, so I was very reactionary in this job, unlike a normal DJ, because a lot of DJs say, "Oh, I'd love that job." You're better off with a radio background because there's more technical stuff involved. Your average DJ would, and they have, lose it in the middle of an important game because there's so many moving parts. in that role, I was running a 64 channel digital audio board, Yamaha board. I had dual touch screens with two different computers with sounds, because when the goal is scored for us, that's why you have to pay attention, is when the goal is scored, you have control of the goal horn. So you have to.
You do? You tooted the goal horn?
I did for many years. Yeah,
Oh my God.
They don't anymore, because after I left, one of the DJs hit the goal horn on the opposing team.
Oh
when
no.
the opposing team scored, so they moved that out of the DJ room. But for all my time, I hit the goal horn. So it was a sequence. You hit the goal horn, you let that blow twice, and now it's very famous because it's at Gillette for third downs. Then you hit Zombie Nation by Kern Croft 400, and you let that play, and then Jim Martin, the announcer at the time, would come on and announce the goals. And on his second announcement, he would give the time of the goal, and then you hit the woo.
Man, you need to pay attention.
Which is Ric Flair. Well, more so hockey's one thing. Doing basketball, take yourself to the fourth quarter of a Celtics game on a close game. You might have to have 6 songs in 30 seconds, because you need a timeout Celtics. You need a PA bed for the read. Then you need a popular song that'll get everybody dancing. And then you need a hard rock song that'll bring them back on, like a Paradise City. Man. So and that could happen, you don't know. So you're looking, while the game's going on, you're looking for other songs. So that's why the creation of folders is so important. Like I had a hot timeout folder, and I had a back on folder, and a opening tip folder, things like that. And then you have hotkeys where you can, a bank of just keys, and you've probably seen those 366 systems, and you just be able to hit something on a flash of, but it's all changing at the moment. So that's why you kind of appreciate baseball, because it doesn't move so fast. And I did a couple seasons with the Red Sox, and that's easy compared to basketball and hockey.
My drummer in my band, Steve Kilroy, I guess his dad was the keyboardist at the Red Sox for a while. You know a guy named Kilroy?
I don't know. I worked there just recently. In 2019, I think was my last year there.
That's irrelevant. That's such an interesting story. Yeah. So what you did was a lot harder than what I did as a DJ on the radio. I mean, for me,
I don't think so. I have great admiration.
Yeah, no, it was easy. Yeah. Trust me. Yeah. You play a song, and back in the back day, you go in a couple hours early and pull out all your records. But you had an entire 3 minutes where you knew you didn't have to do anything except get another song. Well, I still have bad memories about. I mean, it's not bad memories, but nightmares, actual dreams about. And I'm sure you have work dreams where, oh my God, I need another song and I can't find one, and it's in slow motion. Do you have those dreams?
Well, not so much that, but in the early going, when I first started doing the Bruins, we talk about this on an episode. The director of the games, a very good friend of mine, Mark Chambers, if I played something like, you'd hear a whistle, and in the whistle you get 20 seconds to the puck drop generally. So I'd play a song, and let's say it's third period and the game's intense, and I'd play a song, and I'd hear an audible gasp over the headset. You'd hear him go, oh. Meaning,
From who?
From the director, Mark.
Yeah,
Chambers.
Because he didn't like the song.
Right. We didn't always see eye to eye on the music, but gradually, we got in sync, and now I work for him in a league called 3 Ice, which travels the country.
What's an example of a song that you liked and he went over?
It might have been. I always liked. Like there was a song by the Yahoo Boys called. We used to use it as a goal horn. It was called Pipe Dreams. So it had a little Scottish bagpipe. It was high energy, almost like EDM. Very, very few DJs played it because I don't know why, but it wasn't really well known. I think that was one, Pipe Dreams. And then just if it wasn't high energy enough, that'd be the example. But there were moments when you really did hit it right on the nail. Like in 2011, we were in playing Tampa Bay Game 7, 48 seconds left in the game, and we were up 1-0. And I played Baba O'Reilly right from the beginning, and there was an issue with the clock. So instead of getting 20 seconds, I got about a minute 10 or 20 seconds.
Uh-oh.
And the crescendo happened. I think that's what you call it. And the place just went berserk. I mean, you could look it up on YouTube. It was quite a moment. For me, it was my best moment in that career.
This is so interesting. Thank you to John Graham for turning me on to you. And thank you for being so generous with telling me how the karaoke goes. We'll
Sure.
get into that later. But we want to talk about your podcast because it's super interesting. It's called Between the Beats.
It is, yes.
Was it tough? First of all, was it tough to find a name that wasn't already taken out there in this world?
It was taken, then abandoned. I did some research, so they did something back, and I forget the year. Maybe it was 2015, and they didn't really launch any episodes. So it's one of those things where I said, okay, we're going to do it. It wasn't copyrighted or anything. So I had a nice logo made with my bald head looking over the city of Boston.
Yeah.
And launched it on Spotify actually yesterday. And thank you for helping me with the announcement today. So that's why we're trying to build our followers. It's basically it's all surrounding the music industry. So many elements of it that I've worked in. I've worked in the wedding industry. I'm a wedding DJ. I've worked in nightclubs in Boston for many years. Not anymore. I'm kind of retired from that. But the pro sports angle, we're addressing the origins of music with each of the 4 Boston sports teams. So talk to the people who were there when the first songs were played. We just found out when they started playing Dirty Water at Bruins games.
Wow.
You know, we talked to people that made the decisions on the goal song that still stands after, I think it's been 20 years now with the goal song. Maybe not that long, but and it's just interesting. I'm editing right now an episode with a guy by the name of, we call him DJ Eddie Barnett from Charlestown. And Bradley, when I tell you this guy knows more about soul music, he used to go to a place called the Sugar Shack.
Oh yeah, Sugar Shack in the 70s.
Oh, you know it? Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't on Tremont. It was right up in the Tremont, Boylston area.
Right. Well, he was there every night, and
Wow.
He collected the used records from their jukebox.
No
and
way.
Met a lot of the famous artists. Told me about James Brown, and I asked him. I said, for the lay person, tell me what makes funk music different from everything else. And he kind of went into some detail on that. It was just fascinating for me.
What did he say? Can you remember?
Well, he said, I said, give me an example. He says, there's a difference between funk and funky, and funk has that lay down beat. And then
When I think of funk, I think of Ohio players. Bow, 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 fire.
Right. And he used some examples like James Brown was an early artist that really dealt in funk, but he was a massive record collector, and he bought and sell records for he just turned 80. He doesn't own a cell phone, doesn't own a computer. He has a rotary phone at his house just for kind of show. He can't dial out with it, but just an interesting character that knows so much about Black music, especially in the city of Boston. And it was interesting. That'll be posted later tonight. I'm editing it now, and just some of the things he said, because I was always a mainstream DJ. I played the hits. That's how I made money, but he never liked really playing the hits. He wanted to know what was on the B side, so it's an interesting take, really.
Okay, so I want to make sure I spelled this right. Between the Beats, that's the name of your podcast, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And where do people find it? I went to Spotify. Is it activated on Spotify? Can you hear it now?
It is. If you search for Between the Beats, you can also put in Dan McCarthy, and that might help. It should come up. And it's, anybody working in the music industry, those are going to be our guests. Radio DJs like yourself, performers, technicians, and
I'll be a guest if you want. I got stories.
I would love that. I would love that. Especially, I love to hear about the old days at BCN, and your career has spanned so many years.
And I did the radio, and I had I did my time DJing in clubs. So that's hard work. At the end of the night, you're so tired.
Yeah,
as you know, it's pretty brutal. But I didn't do it as much as the clubs as much as you did. Well, man, I don't know.
Let's put that on the books. I would love to have you as a guest.
We have definitely some crossover in our experience. It's so, for a while, only a short while, did I have my own little business, and the money was good, but it was so hard work, such hard work. There was some Western Mass gig in some high school or something, and the number one thing that bothered me was, and this is with vinyl. I had this big old heavy coffin rigged up. I had the two 1200s and I guess probably a Newmark mixer. And I had this coffin built and it weighed 1,000 pounds. I think that was my mistake, not having it in sections. This was all one big thing. There's no way I could do it myself. I had a PA. I had a Crown amp. But the thing that bothered me the most, for me, the DJ nightmare was not just somebody coming in drunk. Can you play something I can dance to?
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's the number one dumb thing to say.
I'm a DJ too.
Yeah,
we love that.
Hold on. The worst is when they come up with their drink and like sloshing it around. You think, oh, they're going to spill their drink on my equipment.
Oh, I had to hold a guy back last Saturday. It was hovering near my laptop, and you spill something on the laptop. I have backups for the backup. But that would have been not so good.
Yeah, and so that's why I kind of grab it. I liked clubs where the DJ is far away, up in a corner in a booth that you can't get to. Like Bill's Bar, you had to climb up this ladder and get way up here.
I know it well. Vincent's nightclub has about 30 stairs to go up, and they used to have a phone. I don't know if they still. Well, they just closed, I should say. They had a phone by the main bar where if you picked up the phone, it rang in the DJ booth.
Well, once again, I want to give John Graham credit for
he's
being
the greatest.
Aware and connecting us, because I'm so excited. Yeah. Well, I'm so excited. Oh, my God, right?
You will see me at your karaoke night. I can't wait to come out and sing it. Maybe we'll do a duet together.
You're coming?
Not this Saturday. I have a wedding.
It's only a one-off deal. It's only a one-off.
Oh, okay.
This is proof of concept. Is this going to work kind of thing. That's why I'm really got to get people out. I mean, yes and no. I mean, there was only 1 week to put it together, so I'm not going to feel that bad. It's really just to see if the logistics of it work.
Yeah.
But
well, good luck with that, because you've got that kind of raspy, good voice. I did a cast party one time and Thomas Hayden Church was there. Mm-hmm. Same type of voice. Do you remember him, Lowell from Wings? Had kind of that raspy voice, and I told him, Johnny Cash. That's your man.
Johnny Cash. And there's another artist that said, I wish I could sing those fancy songs and go up high, but I just can't. And that was Lou Reed. I can do Lou Reed songs.
There you go.
Some Lou Reed songs.
Now you're on the right track. Yeah.
I have to choose the songs by, probably Leonard Cohen. But of course, Leonard Cohen's song's not a real crowd pleaser.
No, I don't think so. But I'll tell you, if you have a couple of cocktails, I don't know if you enjoy a cocktail, but
I do.
The more you drink, the better you sound.
That's weird.
It's just a natural. It's actually true.
Which, by the way, goes to any performance of any kind. Not the more you drink, but the more relaxed you are. The more relaxed you are, the better hockey player, DJ, anything, any performance. The more relaxed you are, the better a job you do. And of course, the shortcut to that for the rookie like myself is Budweiser or something like that. Yeah. Not too much. One Bud just changes things enough. I used to have an interview kit when I was interviewing I don't know if I should tell this, interviewing somebody super famous, and I was rich. I was nervous.
Yeah.
I bring all my equipment and like my recorder, You have to go out in the field with a mini disc recorder. Oh, I got my mini disc recorder. I got my connections. I got my battery. I got my mic. Blah, blah. I got my 1 can of Budweiser in the thing just a pound before the interview.
Oh, it's pre-interview?
Yeah.
That's great.
It was a genuine tool that was, one of the best tools in the bag.
Yeah.
So back to your podcast. This is about you. It started up just recently, starting now, kind
Yes.
of, and it's called Between the Beats, as you can see here. That's why I have that running, and you can get it on Spotify and where else? Everywhere, right? Just Google
So
Between
we're
the
going
Beats.
to launch on iHeartRadio, and there'll be one other. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, I guess anywhere you can get podcasts. Hopefully in the next couple of days.
So A, where do you produce your podcast, and then B, how do you decide and how do you distribute it? Like with music, you choose a distributor like CD Baby or something like that. What do I use? DistroKid for my music.
Yeah.
They get it out to everywhere you click for one fairly low price.
Really? You'll have to educate me on that because I'm new to the game when it comes to distribution
of music. I don't know if it's podcasts as well.
Right. Yeah.
But maybe.
Yeah.
See, you have to. I choose DistroKid because of its pricing. It's pretty cool. You just, it's super easy to post. You type in some information, not too hard.
Yeah.
You upload the graphic, you upload the song, and you click submit, and poof, they say, all right, pretty soon your stuff will be wherever you checked, Apple Music, blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
And I would imagine it's the same with podcasts, no?
Well, I have some inroads because we have a huge following from the Cape Cod Happy Hour crowd. In 2017, I produced a movie called Kings of Cape Cod. I think we talked about that a while back on the radio.
Yeah.
We got a 5,000 member Facebook group, so we're gonna start with that. And I think I'm covering subjects like Bruins music and Celtics music, and we're going to get into Red Sox and Patriots. Now, subjects that are popular with all kinds of sports fans, which I think will be a good draw for us.
Good. Excuse me. And what do you have for podcast episodes coming up?
So we have lined up right now. We have there's a couple of DJs that people will know. I don't want to say the name because I haven't booked them yet. But I got invited to do a podcast with a gentleman. Again, I don't want to mention his name too early, but he used to work with Frank Sinatra as kind of a manager, and he has done bookings throughout New England and the East Coast as kind of a concert promoter. And I think that's going to be a great, we're dipping back into the old days of music, and anybody I can find, especially people that are older. I interviewed a performer yesterday who was 80, and it's an opportunity for them to tell their story and get it recorded, and for prosperity, if nothing else. But I'm getting gold in these stories. Just gentleman yesterday, his name is Peter English, guitar player and lead singer for a few different bands. He was the entertainment for Ted Kennedy's 50th birthday party.
Oh my God!
Both in Washington and on the Cape. And they had a group called Peter and Toby on Cape Cod, and finding out little ditties like that when you when you're just not expecting it is great. I do it on the road, and I have a studio in Charlestown and here in Burlington where I record. As long as I can get my dog to stop barking during the podcast, it's pretty good.
Okay, for people who podcast, so you were a music guy, but as a host, you also had to be a personality, right?
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah. Like, and you people asked me to do weddings, and I always said no because I was afraid I would screw up their big day. The responsibility was too huge.
Yeah.
What a responsibility.
I'm a wedding MC by trade, and I still get anxiety. I have a wedding tomorrow in Thornton, New Hampshire, and I still get anxious. I pace a little, can't eat lunch. But once the introductions and the first dance and the toasts are done, it's like exhaling. I'm in my element, and now I'm gonna like really crush this dance floor, and that's what I'm really good at.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man. There's two kinds of DJs that crush the dance floor, and DJs that are selfish and play the stuff they like, which was me. That's why I like the clubs where dancing wasn't a thing, like Bill's bar, playing between the bands.
Oh, it's a blast doing that.
You didn't have to. Once the first person dances, then you're stuck, because it's one thing if it's a club and everybody's just drinking and nobody expects anybody to dance, but if people start dancing and then they stop, the stopping dancing is the killer, right?
Yeah. It's if something bombs, I mean, you want to take some chances, definitely. Like I used to play places in like the Alley Cat in the alley.
Yeah.
And we did Sweetwater Cafe right next door. I did some Lansdowne street work. I was the DJ for opening day at Game On, and also at the Greatest Bar in 2004 when the Red Sox won the World Series. There's a video of the bartender throwing up the napkins. I think we were on Fox, and I was right beside the camera doing my thing. So, yeah, it's nice that you can't really let the music, if you want to get a dance floor, you can't really let the music you love get in there too much. Like Sultans of Swing would be my favorite song, and nobody's ever going to dance to that.
No, they're not. So I don't know if you tell your secrets, but let's say all generations, you're in a multi-generational wedding. That's the thing about weddings, multi-generational.
Right.
What is your ace in the hole that just is the one that you save? Maybe, you until you need it, but everybody's going to dance every time, ever. What is it?
Well, it's funny because there's probably 5 of them that are like really go to, like Whitney Houston's I Want to Dance with Somebody. It is more popular today than it ever was when she was alive. And I don't know why. I think songs work in peaks and valleys. 500 Miles by the Proclaimers. Big when it come out.
No kidding.
Died down for a long time. Never played it at weddings. And then in the past 2 years, I could show you 4 videos of 4 weddings in a row, unprompted, that people started a party train to that song. Started by the groom in a lot of cases, but uncanny. And I don't yell out, "Hey, let's get a party train going." That's not the case. It's and now Mr. Brightside is probably one of the biggest songs. Even the older folks are loving that.
ELO?
No, Mr. Brightside by why am I drawing a blank? I can't think of it, but can't think of it.
I can't either. I don't know why I said ELO.
I'm going to see ELO in October, I think it is, right?
Is it October? Wow. Okay. So, man, isn't it interesting how many stories you have? You know what's sad to me? Well, not that sad, but when I see a young, somebody coming up, I feel bad for them.
Yeah,
because they don't have any stories really compared to a guy like you, and they will never compared to a guy like you. You've lived such a in the trenches, grungy, story-filled life. They won't, and I have too, and
I loved it all.
I feel they just won't. I feel kind of, what do I talk to you about? That's what I say when I see a kid. Tell me a story. That's what I say. I want to say, do you have a story? Tell me a story. I also say something. Tell me something I need to know that all boomers need to know that they're dumb about. Anyway, back to you and your whole thing.
Well,
where do you tell me about your podcast setup?
So I invested in the Rodecaster and all Rode microphones, those studio microphones. And I tried to, we had to do an episode on Zoom because one of our guests was from Toronto. Interestingly enough, that guest is Pat Downey. He was the very first DJ for the Boston Bruins, and he is the brother of the late Gord Downey, who from the Tragically Hip. And he runs Gord Downey's foundation up there in Canada.
Man, so, you must know a lot A lot of people. So everyone that's your guest has to come to the studio?
No, I go to them in a lot of cases.
You go to them.
The 80-year-old entertainer yesterday, we did it in his in-law apartment. And
So you take, what is your equipment you take with you?
the Rodecaster and the four Rode desktop mics, the studio mics.
Okay.
And you try to find a quiet place. But when his wife pulled in the garage and opened the door, we had to pause it for a minute. But you run
So
into
what's a Rodecaster?
It is a podcasting mixer.
Okay.
So the advantage,
so you got mics that go into a mixer.
Right.
And then where does it get recorded?
It gets recorded to a smart card.
Okay.
And it has effects. It has an effect bank. So I'm able to play some old Bruins and Celtics clips as I'm interviewing the guests, which is handy.
So the Rode mixer records it to a thumb drive.
Right.
Or a smart,
it's
some
actually
sort
a
of
smart card, which is the only disadvantage to it. It uses a mini smart card. I wish it had, another device on it, but it is what it is.
So if you want, and then when you want to edit it, you take the smart card and do what with it?
I go into Adobe Audition and just edit a lot of times if you get a soft-spoken guest, you have to level or balance the audio. I had to do that with a gentleman the other day, and his everything he said was gold, but he was and I've learned, now you have to have people be right up on top of the microphone as you are. You already know that. And so no sitting back, no leaning forward and sitting back. Pause when they want to cough or sneeze. There's all little things I'm learning as I am a new podcaster.
That's the Between the Beats podcast host, Dan McCarthy. It's so cool that you have, isn't it kind of cool that you have the ability to do a podcast? Because in prior years, we poo-poo a lot of modern stuff.
Yeah.
But, if it were in 1990, what would you do? You wouldn't be able to do it. You wouldn't be able to get those stories out.
No.
For a person with content, I hate the word content. It's so yucky. For a person with stories, the ability to podcast is huge. And so good for you for embracing it. That's good.
Yeah, documenting those stories is, I plan on, I'm trying to I'm going to get a hold of Renee Rancourt, the anthem singer, because he wasn't just an anthem singer. He was a band leader and a singer for many years. So him and I have worked together for many years. So it's just a matter. I'm trying to figure out if I call him, where am I going to record him? Because I don't want to make him come to Burlington, Try to find a quiet place in Natick.
Briefly, before we get to one of your big stories, Bruins, they're playing tonight, right?
They are, yes.
And so they have to win tonight and the next night.
Yep.
Or it's all done. What is your prediction? And can you do it without being a homer?
A homer, yes. Well, they showed some grit in the last game, and if I always said if a goaltender stands on his head, if Swayman is hot, if he's on it tonight like he was in the first few games, then they'll win. But you never know in these situations. I mean, the ebbs and flows of the playoffs are just,
It seems like if they had to play 100 games, Florida would win. They're just kind of overpowering in the long term. They have to kind of grit it out for 2 games,
right?
Which they can if they get hot, but it takes a huge amount of energy.
Yeah. Well, one game at a time. If that's a kind of a catchphrase, but it's so true. If they just focus on this one game and win this one game, then it's anybody's series.
If they win this one game, so I'm new to watching hockey carefully. So it's because I am a fair weather fan. That's right. I'm a fair weather fan and a playoffs fan.
You do well living in Miami.
That makes me suck. I know.
Yeah.
But here we are, and it caught my interest a lot, and I would like to be a much bigger fan because the more I watch it, the more I get into it. And one thing I realize is nothing happens. I mean, not nothing, but it's like, he's got it. Oh, they got it. And then when something does happen, it happens in a lightning blink. Boom. And so you really have to pay attention. And you, as the DJ, must have had to really pay super duper attention. I mean, to see, be right there when a goal was scored.
Well, the worst part is sudden death overtime. That is because you're you know it's just you're on edge every second, and you know that your season could be over. I feel for instance TJ Connolly, who'll be DJing tonight, a gifted DJ. He does the Patriots as well, and sometimes I'll text him like the last game I texted him, don't forget a well-placed Baba O'Reilly will do you well. And he did play it, but that's the worst. It's heart-wrenching what happens in a game like that. And it could go either way. I mean, you're elated if they win, but you're down. I know Ron Poster, when they lost last year, he's the organist. He went into a quiet, dark room for 20 minutes once the game was over. It's just people don't realize how hard those jobs are, and I give TJ a lot of credit.
All right, now I'm going to give you a chance to tell a real cool story. Is about you introducing karaoke to Boston and talking about the growth of it, and maybe why it wasn't a flash in the pan, what there is about karaoke that people like. Some people feel there's a stigma to it. A friend of mine said, I don't know, there's kind of a stigma to that. And I'm like, no, there isn't. You mean only people in bands are allowed to sing? Is that the rule? I don't think so. That's not a very good rule.
Right.
So, it was, how did it come to be? How did you come across it? How did you introduce it? How did you make it flower? And what kind of resistance did you run into? And who liked it and who didn't? And at the end, you can give me advice as somebody brand new. And I'm not going to make a living. I don't need to make a living at it. Sure. I want to have fun. As soon as it ain't fun, I ain't doing it anymore. But I do want to be good at it. That's kind of the thing. So let's start from the very beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the 1980s in Boston. The club scene is hopping. It's pretty gritty. There aren't all these tall buildings. Boylston Street still looks like ass. It doesn't look like New York. It's a way different place. More dangerous, more dirty, more rocking. And we have Dan McCarthy here trying to eke out a living and as a DJ. And then there's this thing called karaoke pops up. Tell me about how it came to be.
Well, I was DJing at the time. I was at the Palace in Saugus, so a lot of people remember, on Tuesday nights, and I was at Vincent's in Randolph on Thursday night. So I'm driving home from Vincent's one night, thinking a lot about the karaoke show I had seen at the Palace. My very good friend, Greg Gates, at the time, that was his stage name at the time, was hosting because the owners of the Palace had seen this Pioneer Laserdisc player that produced not only music videos, but the graphics for the words of the song. Now, before then, people probably had sheets that you could read and sing along to cassette tapes, but this was revolutionary. This would put graphics and video with the words and the lyrics, and sort of like the bouncing ball of the 50s, but it would color in the lyrics. And I still have all those recordings, but you'd have to take a laser disc, put it in the machine, and they would color in the lyrics as you go. And I loved this show. I wasn't a singer, but I loved this show and the way they did it. So I'm driving home from Vincent's one night, and I thought to myself, I have to buy this thing, even if it's $10,000, which it wasn't. It was about $3,500 for the machine and the laser discs. And so I bought it. I was the third machine in Boston. So it was one machine at the Palace, one machine at Nick's Comedy Stop, which I don't think they really did much with because they had so much comedy there that they didn't really need karaoke. And I bought the third machine and went on the road trying to sell it. And nobody understood karaoke. What's that? Nobody understood. I said, if you sing in the shower, you would. And it was a tough sell. So in the early days, we found a spot, Crackers Pub in Beverly, and they gave us the opportunity. We did Monday nights up there because they had live music the rest of the week. And we rocked the place. I mean, because we made up signs. We had stupid hats and wigs and cowbells and all kinds of stuff to, go along. And the smartest thing we ever did was we encouraged the bad singers because we made a big deal. So we used like the Elvis 2001 intro.
Yep.
We used the Tonight Show theme. So we made a big deal. So let's say a guy who has a terrible singing voice, we brought him up to a big fanfare and gave him a big outro. And on the East Coast tour, there's, and we made such a big deal of it. They kept coming back week after week because where else would you go to get that kind of attention?
Right. You could be somebody. You're a nobody at work. You got no girlfriend. You got no life.
Yeah.
You're not cool.
Right.
You're lonesome. But you can go to this place, and all of a sudden, you're a star. You get big love, and you're a star. And of course, you're going to go back for that because in America, that is what matters. A little bit of stardom.
And it evolved into something with American Idol and all that. But in 1990, the end of 1990, Steve DeMarco from T's Pub took a chance on us. He actually sought us out. And we started in 1990 and we ended a few years. We did a 30-year run at the BU bar, T's Pub, 2 nights. Yeah, I mean, we've done other places, we do all the Kings locations now, Kings Bowl. And we're at, we're here and there. But T's Pub was a game changer. We had a line going out the door 2 nights a week. We were at Kai's in Malden, which was a Bruins bar. And all the Bruins used to come and sing. Ray Bork picked up the microphone, and I mean, it was just a time when
once you get a picture, when you get a picture of Ray Bork singing at your place, that's good promo.
Right? Yeah, I got a picture of Cam Neely with the mic. He did it once. He wasn't big on that, but then we did for the New England Patriots. We did Larry Oakey, and they drew 2,000 people to, I think it was Avalon at the time, for a big benefit. And Tom Brady, I handed the mics to Tom Brady and Doug Flutie, and they sang Friends in Low Places. And when I tell you, I don't know if they sang great or not, but it brought the house down. I wish somebody had the video to that because that was like one of the biggest moments.
See, look at those stories. Your life is packed with them, and now you have this wonderful podcast. So you can access the podcast anytime. There's no time for the podcast because you can get it on right now Spotify.
Right.
As soon everyone open another window right now, and go to Spotify and just follow and just get this. Be a follower or whatever you call it on Spotify of Dan, because first of all, Dan's a local guy here in Boston, real Boston guy, real Boston stories, and a lot of people love the whole music scene. Everybody talks about the radio, but the whole club scene, man, and what it was really like backstage, and from one of the guys who made it happen, is a big deal. So, in those early days, in the early days, what was your entire setup? You had the Laserdisc machine, you had to have a video monitor, you had to have amplifier, you had to have PA. Well, give me your whole list of stuff you had to have back in those days.
Well, luckily, this unit, it evolved into smaller Laserdisc players, but this original Pioneer unit had 3 mic inputs, and it had echo, which was a big deal. You have to have.
So this was a karaoke machine
by Pioneer
made for this,
right?
And so it had mic inputs, and it must have had outs that went to
the house, usually to the house.
So that was it. You just needed the machine.
Yeah, like we did it at Bill's Bar. You mentioned Bill's Bar earlier. We used to do, for the Andelmans, we used to do the Phantom Food Fest on Lansdowne. Remember when that was on Lansdowne? So we'd do karaoke in Bill's Bar, and Dan Andelman loves to sing. And he'd get up on stage, and it was a great event. It packed the place, but so most of the times you're tying into the house system, and the video feeds. Once we went to HDMI, it was so much easier because you're dealing with laptop computers back and trying to do video converters, and when high def come out, you'd have to upscale the signal. So there was a lot of
So you'd have to bring your own video monitor, right?
Right. A lot of times, or the best thing is when you tied, like at T's Pub, we tied into the big screen, the projector.
Yeah.
And that was, but we'd still have the monitor facing you when
On
you
the
were on
stage.
stage.
So
Yeah.
you'd have a splitter out of
Right.
out of your HDMI, one to the stage, one to the projectors in the house.
Exactly. And back
That's how
then it was video, you know, we were in the 80s. So the splitters were, you know, it was all analog. So it was,
Yeah.
you know, it was, I used to, my favorite place was, what's the name of the place? You Do It Electronics.
Oh yeah. That
Would have
on
everything.
128.
Oh, you know, I bow to them because they bailed me out of so many situations, you know.
So you'd have to take the karaoke machine, but you would have to take your own monitor, and you'd
Right.
have to take an HDMI cable or a splitter maybe just in case.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
I'm not the
And-
king of karaoke. I'm the king of cables. I have every, you know, when I go into my van, you know, there's not a cable or connector or an adapter that I don't have. That's the trick. I used to be like at Radio Shack all the time, just picking up spare
Radio
stuff.
Shack. Radio
I
Shack.
missed that place. That was a great
It got
store.
sad at the end for Radio Shack. It looked all semi-abandoned. So the
Right.
lights, some of the lights were out. Nobody cared. It was,
As does You Do It right now.
Oh.
The shelves are bare, and it's a sad, you know, when you can get everything online, it's a sad state of affairs for stores like that.
okay. So being the king and having decades of experience, I have this gig coming up at City Winery on this Saturday night, the 18th. I should put up just go to City Winery and buy the tickets in advance so they don't freak out that there's no advance sale. I mean, who buys tickets in advance to karaoke? I get it, but if you're gonna go buy them in advance, they're $5. I don't even know why they charged it all, but $5. What is your advice for me? I've never done this before. I've been on stage a lot in front of both on Gillette Stadium,
Yep.
which is easier, believe it as you might guess, than a tiny intimate stage. It's the intimate stages like City Winery that are the difficult ones. What's your advice to
Well, I'll
a
tell you.
super rookie like me?
You're starting out with one of the premier locations in the city of Boston. I had the great fortune to do a karaoke night for a company called Rocketbook, and the engineer at City Winery was fantastic. They have spent the money to get premium sound in there. So I tell anybody that's watching this broadcast, if you want a great experience and hearing your singing voice, there's no better place than City Winery. I will tell you, I'll give you a couple of tricks. We used to use signs. So we'd hold up signs behind the singer that would say, "And the crowd goes wild," or applause, or big man on campus, or the next Taylor Swift. And the reason we did that is because then they don't see you holding up the signs, and the audience goes crazy, and they think the audience is reacting.
But they have seen you hold up those signs for other people, though, right?
Oh, we cycle them in and cycle them out. So it's
Every once in a while. But
If
you
it
give them a
gets-
big.
yeah. If it gets stale, we kind of give it a rest for a while.
By the way, since I have no idea what I'm doing in this kind of thing, I need to thank Chachi LaPrette, his wife, and magician John Duke Logan, they are all part of the Come Together Beatles show at City Winery. They have stepped up and they just took me under their wing and helping me out. They're all helping me with the production. They're all coming, and I appreciate it so much and also I want to thank Scott Feldman at City Winery and JP, the tech guy, who's so helped me out, made me feel a little more confident about it. Okay, any other tips? What about for the karaoke people who are going to sing? What about tips for them? How to have a fun experience?
Here's my best advice. In anything, especially in performance, it's all about song selection. All right, so many of these shows like The Voice and American Idol, you hear a great singer, but they're singing a terrible song. And the ones that were smart enough to pick, if you remember, go back to Kelly Clarkson, and she sang A Moment Like This when she won the first American Idol. I mean, it blew everybody away, and it's song selection. Pick something that's going to be a favorite of the audience, and don't pick something that's your personal favorite that nobody knows. Don't reach back into the vault, pick something that's either catchy or a hit, or, look at as much as it's overplayed, there's a reason Sweet Caroline is such a hit is because it's a catchy sing-along tune. But, pick something that really resonates with the audience.
Since I can only sing Lou Reed songs, I'm in deep trouble.
Yeah,
we'll figure something out.
But I can help you pick a couple of songs
because you have the same kind of voice. Thank you.
That are mainstream. Yeah.
So, and don't you have to kind of like the song to really feel it? You really gotta kind of know it and
you
love
should
it.
know it. Yeah, because if you're picking a song, don't and always for you as a host, not necessarily somebody walking in the door, but for you as a host, make sure you rehearse it at home so you're comfortable with it ahead of time. Don't make the mistake of jumping into a song because somebody suggested it, because you might get halfway through and say, "Ooh, how do I know? How do I backpedal out of this one?"
I've been going. You don't. You go. Oh, that's what. I've been rehearsing to find out what works for me. There are songs that I thought worked for me,
yeah,
and they just didn't. I thought they would, and they didn't, and so I've gotten rid of them. Like
Did you try Johnny Cash?
Yes, I do. I can do Johnny Cash. Yeah. I think, but I have to love it. Like what, Ring of Fire?
Or I Walk the Line. It's just got that.
Yeah, I got all right. I got a day to get a couple more.
Great railroad sound.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a good. I have to squeeze a Johnny Cash in there.
I do Traveling Wilburys because it's I won't say monotone, but it's got a good range for me. I don't have to go too high with the notes.
Yeah, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to do House of the Rising Sun like everybody does it. So what? But in the beginning, there is, so I'm fine. But then Eric Burden, he can go a whole wow. When he kicks it up, I can't go up that high. And I figured that out ahead of time through practice. I'm glad I didn't do it live.
Yeah.
But maybe with practice, I could do it. So, the reason you're here is the podcast. We're almost to an hour. I want to make sure that I've covered the podcast enough. I don't want to have you saying, gee, I wish we could have talked about something else regarding the podcast.
No, thank you.
Between the beats. Come on. I'm going to be a fan. By the way, people, if you're a boomer and you haven't really gotten into podcasts, you are missing out. I barely watch TV anymore. I watch... when I go to bed every night, I'll listen to a podcast. I've gotten so smart. I listen to like the history of so and so, and even when I'm sleeping, I'm listening to it. So it's getting in there somehow. I love listening to podcasts before bed, and I love listening to podcasts in the car, and even around the house when I'm doing chores, trying to clean up. Podcasts going. It's not some dumb TV, not some dumb movie. It's some cool podcast. And I actually wish I'd listened to the advice of my producer, WBZ, Mark Lavallo, a long time ago when the earth was new. He said, podcast, man, you got to get a podcast. Podcast. And I'm like, yeah, okay, dude. Because I'm on the radio and all, and I'm thinking, podcast? He was right. If I had started then, I'd be more established. It's interesting to see the podcasts that get like 500,000, the audio and video, they get 500,000 views or 500,000 listens. It's crazy. How does that happen? Well, that is for you to figure out. I don't know. Now you got to figure out how to get big. Any ideas on how that works?
Boy, I don't know. I admire some of the podcasts. Like I listen to Mobituaries, but he's got CBS behind him, and then I love the crime dramas. There was a great one on the DC Sniper called Monster. Mm-hmm. I love that one. Sometimes they just have to catch, but I'm hoping my connections in the sports world get us into maybe some discussion groups or Facebook groups, like, Bruins fans, Celtics fans, music fans, You
know what? Your story is so cool that I think you could be a guest on like ESPN or even CNN or whatever. You just got such a cool story.
Maybe one of those, one of those BZ reporters that does the niche kind of stuff during the day.
You would be a fantastic guest on the Morgan White Jr. show.
Yeah.
On BZ. Morgan?
I love Morgan White. He's I've never seen or heard anybody that does trivia better than him. Back to the, what was the name of the Coolidge Corner Clubhouse?
Yeah, which is still there.
Yeah, he used to do trivia there. I think it was Monday or Tuesday nights. And wow, what a mind.
I
What a
don't
mind.
understand how he can know everything. On BZ, I would come on before him and he'd be coming on after me. And while he's waiting around, I'd say, come on, Morgan, hit me with some trivia. World War II, let's go. And he would get, I'd say, give me another one, give me another. I'd never get him. But I just love these questions and the way he delivers it. I would love to hear you on his show. I would love everybody.
I'd love to do it. Yeah.
Good to you.
I listened to you very often, and I used to listen to I used to love the Steve Lavelli.
The Steve Lavelli show. The Steve Lavelli show.
Can you impersonate him? The Steve Lavelli broadcast. I used to love those shows because I was in the nightclubs and I'd listen on the way home.
The Steve Lavelli, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when he left, after a while, I got that gig, and it was, it's 5 hours to talk radio. It's like you doing a podcast. It's like you doing a podcast for 5 hours every day, and for like 1 or 2 hour stretches, there'd be nobody talking except you. Like when you get home, your whole face and throat are tired, like you've been running a talking marathon. You just and it was and Lavelli. Steve Lavelli did it for 13 years. And the other thing, it's overnight. So, you're getting home at 6, and then you maybe getting some sleep and you're going back in.
It was either him or JT the Brick. Do you remember when he was on?
No.
I'd get the sports angle with him, but I was still am a big BZ listener, but some of those shows. But Morgan White is top of his game.
Yeah.
I've never known anybody better in the trivia world.
Okay, then. So, folks, I guess it's a good time. We can call it 60 minutes because we've been on for almost 60 minutes. I could talk to you for another hour, but we should probably leave something for another time.
Right.
And I appreciate it. And I think what you've gone through in your career, and I get a little bit about how much work you've done and how much stuff you've lugged and how innovative you were and the stress of putting the gigs together and executing them properly. And now that you're the king of the karaoke empire in the Boston area, you got to deal with people and employees and you still do it yourself. And then you get into this high pressure area of doing those games. Super high, your job's super high pressure. I didn't even get how high pressure until today. Oh, did you telling me how to? So I appreciate the richness of your life and your ability to share it, and your willingness to help me out with advice was, so kind. I super appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime. Pick up the phone anytime because I loved my years hosting karaoke. I don't host anymore, but I know you're going to have a great time. And
I hope so.
The bug, you never know.
I have the bug myself.
Yeah.
I got the bug, and I've been going around. I went to the Hong Kong the other night to just talk to the karaoke DJ and see how it goes. And I'm going to go to one of your venues, Kings. I can't go tonight, but soon I will. Even if I don't end up being a host, I now have an outlet. I love doing it. It's like being in a band without all the hassle of getting in a band and lugging equipment and blah blah blah. You get to go and be a star, and it's worth it, and it's so cool.
Does the Hong Kong still only have the one mic hanging from the ceiling?
I can't be sure of that, but it looks.
They were famous for that. They would not get a second microphone. They had one mic, so they got all the tourists. So they had one mic hanging from the ceiling, and you would sing out of that one mic, no matter if there were 5 or 6 of you or just one person. It was hysterical, but they always got a good crowd.
All right. So, Dan, make sure you share this. It'll help us all out. And anyone else that's interested in this kind of thing, if you want to help Dan or you want to help me, please share this, like it, on whatever platform you're looking at this on. Share it, like it, follow it, caress it, kiss it, do whatever you have to do on that platform. And where can folks find out about your, the karaoke places that you operate? Is there some big listing of your empire?
Sure, on bostondj.com. Just go to the karaoke page.
BostonDJ.com. BostonDJ.com.
Right.
And for me, Saturday night, my debut of Bradley Oakey Vino and Vocals with Bradley J at City Winery. If you only go to one event this year,
There you go.
do me a favor and go to this one. And do me a favor and buy the tickets in advance, because we don't want the venue to freak out and depend on walk up. It's also, if you buy the tickets in advance, you're more likely to actually show up and not go, no, I think I'll just stay in tonight and watch TV. No, you got to buy the tickets in advance. They're super cheap. They're $5. $5. That's more than a cup of coffee. I'm just barely about a cup of coffee. Thank you very much, Dan. And also thanks to John. Thanks to John Graham for hooking us up. I'm going to end this now, but I will still talk to you offline. Boom.